Our speaker for tonight is Jim Thompson. He's the founder of the nonprofit This Is What We Did, an organization that is focused on answering the ultimate question, what did you do to fight climate change? He developed the climate change literacy quiz and the Move Your Money campaign to empower everybody to fight climate change through collective climate actions. He's an author and former director of the Public Management Program at Stanford University. He also started the Positive Coaching Alliance to make youth sports about developing better athletes and better people. He's an Ashoka Fellow and received the Game Changer Award from character.org. All right, on to you, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sherby. Okay. Can y'all see this my slides? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just make one comment about the conversation we just had. Purity is not, I'm not for purity and I'm not for perfection. You can start, and I really think if you have a financial advisor who can't answer a simple question like, is any of my money invested in fossil fuel companies? So that's the first cut. Is my money in Exxon or Chevron? They should be able to tell you that. Then, you know, as is a Cadman, as has been said, it's interlocking stuff. So it's hard to be totally pure, but it's not that hard to get totally out of fossil fuel. Let me say I am really, it's really a pleasure to be here. I love movies, and I had a couple issues right off the bat with Our Planet Too Big to Fail. If maybe the older people in the audience like me have seen the movie Out of Africa with Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. And there's a scene in that where Meryl Streep is worrying about Africa being developed, and Robert Redford, who plays Dennis Finch Hatton, he says, no, it's too big. It's too big. It's not, people aren't going to be able to have an impact. And later on, she comes back to him and he says, you know, I might have been wrong about that. Maybe it's not so big that we can't do it. And the planet's not too big to fail, but we are not too big to fail. The second issue right off the bat, where it says, and I quoted, I wrote this down because it grabbed me. Our finance sector is unwittingly financing destruction of the planet. Unwittingly, no, that's not. I think there are very few people in fossil fuel companies, very few people at the higher levels of the climate bad banks, Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank, and Bank of America, who don't know what's going on. And frankly, they're just greedy. I'm not talking about the person who is a bank manager, a branch manager, or just works for the bank, but the people at the top, it's not unwitting. They're saying it's more important that we get our money than the world saved. So let me start with a poem. I find that art and climate change need to go together because it's really discouraging when you really see what's going on. And I love this poem by Wendell called Our Real Work. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. This is me. I don't know. My son is right here. He's now 44, so you can see how long ago this was. I worked at the Stanford Business School. I ran the public management program, and I knew what my work was. It was very straightforward. And then I started Positive Coaching Alliance. the first, the goal of Positive Coaching Alliance was to use youth sports to develop better athletes and better people, to fight the win at all cost mentality that was ruining youth sports. The first workshop we did, there were 5 people in the room. 3 of us were Positive Coaching Alliance staff. We had 2 coaches there. When I stepped away from the CEO role a couple of years ago, we were doing 3,500 live workshops a year. That's about 10 a day across the country. I knew what my work was. And then I took a sabbatical, and all of a sudden I didn't know what my work was. And especially as I began to look at climate change, like, what is it I can do? What gifts do I have that can really make a difference here? I wonder if anybody has seen this definition of intelligence before. It's the ability to hold 2 conflicting ideas in one's head at the same time without having your head explode. Could I just see some hands if you've heard of that definition of intelligence before? I think it's a really good one. So what are the 2 ideas here? Well, the first one is actually what I want you to do first is, if you feel comfortable showing yourself on your screen, please do that. If you don't, that's okay. And if you're willing to blink as fast as you can, 10 times, as fast as you can, when I say go, just raise your hand. Are you willing to blink 10 times as fast as you can? Thank you. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to say go, and then you blink 10 times as fast as you can. Go. Okay, that's pretty good. If you kept blinking for 24 hours plus a little bit more, you would get to 400,000 blinks. Now, why is that important? When I took my sabbatical from Positive Coaching Alliance, I got trained by Al Gore and the Climate Reality Project in Minnesota. I like to say it was Al and me and 1,200 of his closest friends in the Minneapolis Convention Center. One of the things I came away from there was that Al Gore loved slides. We had so many slides. All of had good information on it, but one in particular grabbed my attention. It was James Hansen, who's been called the father of climate change, fighting climate change. And he said, think of the atomic bomb that the United States dropped on Hiroshima. Do you have that idea of how powerful and big that is? And then he said, every day we put the equivalent of 400,000 Hiroshima level bombs of heat into the planet. It's a pretty unbelievable number, really. And when you get your arms around the fact that every day, like today, the Earth is warmer, the equivalent of 400,000 bombs than it was yesterday. When you get your arm around that, you will see that the first idea that I want to share here is we are in big, big trouble. And by we, I mean every living thing on Earth. We also have a short window to act boldly, or we can kiss human civilization goodbye. There's a key concept I want to share with you. It's called a sacrifice zone. A sacrifice zone is a geographical area where the powers that be don't care what happens. They don't care what happens to the land, the water, the air, or the people there. It's a sacrifice zone. This is Robert Bullard, who's been called the father of environmental justice. He did a study looking at solid waste facilities, highly polluting solid waste facilities in Houston, Texas. He discovered that 25% of the people in Houston were Black, and 87% of the solid waste facilities were sited in Black neighborhoods. I don't think that's a coincidence or an accident. It's a sacrifice zone. The people in control didn't care what happens to the people in those areas. I grew up in North Dakota, so I followed the Dakota Access Pipeline quite carefully. This is a group of water protectors from the Indian tribe in North Dakota. This is shows the original pipeline route, which would have gone not super close, but close to the capital city of Bismarck. Bismarck is like 97% white, and kind of magically, the pipeline got rerouted to go right over the water supply for the Standing Rock Reservation. Again, a sacrifice, not a coincidence, but a sacrifice zone. No protests were needed. Now, one of the things that's happening with climate change is it's making the entire planet a sacrifice zone. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine who lived in San Francisco, she took her kids for 2 weeks and they went to Lake Tahoe because the weather in San Francisco, the air quality in San Francisco was so bad. But if you follow the weather last year, in September, Lake Tahoe area almost went up in flames. The climate crisis is causing everywhere in the planet to become a sacrifice zone. Now, I said that intelligence was being able to hold two opposed ideas in your head. This is John Gardner. John was the founder of the White House Fellows Program, Common Cause. He was one of the key people in Lyndon Johnson's anti-poverty program as a head of health, education, and welfare. And he said, we are all faced with a series of great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as insoluble problems. So the first idea is that we're in big trouble and we have a very short period of time to do something about it. But let's talk about number two, the second idea, which is we have a terrific opportunity ahead of us. All we have to do, are you ready for this? All we have to do is break the power of the fossil fuel industry. That's all we have to do. We had at our monthly meeting of the Climate Conservation Conversation Corps, we had Carl Pope speak. Carl was for 18 years the head of the Sierra Club. And one of the things he said is that there are so many opportunities. It used to be climate change was a sacrifice narrative. In 1990, if we were going to deal with climate change, it would have made us poor. But now, renewables, wind, solar, battery technology have become so cheap that it's cheaper to go to renewable energies than to stay with fossil fuel. The problem is that the fossil fuel industry and its supporters, like these climate bad banks, have a lot of control. So we have to be able to amass the political power to deal with them. So what can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is talk. We can move big climate action into what's called the Overton window. Let me just see, for those of you whose screens I can see, how many of you have heard of the Overton window before? I see a couple of people. The Overton window is a conceptual space. When an issue or a problem is in the Overton window, the media covers it and government tries to solve it. A lot of people think government's not very effective. Actually, government is really effective at dealing with the problems of the people who control it. The problem is we don't control it. So the Overton window, if we can drag an issue into the Overton window, then the media starts to cover it and government starts to deal with it. I'm a big fan of Bernie Sanders. one of the reasons I am is because he took a whole bunch of ideas like Medicare for all, forgiving student debt, and dragged them, not just him, his whole movement, lots of people did it, but dragged them into the Overton window. In the last election, the state of Florida voted for President Trump. At the same time, the citizens of Florida were voting to pass a $15 an hour minimum wage. That moved the minimum wage, which was beyond the pale. Oh, we can't do that. It'll kill jobs. You know, most of the people working for less than $15 are kids. And that movement dragged the $15 an hour minimum wage into the Overton window. And the people who voted for Trump for president voted to make that happen. So what can we do? Well, we can talk, and not just talk, but learn to be effective at climate conversations. We have a climate conversation class. We've run it 2 a month. One started last night, another one starts tomorrow night. If you're really excited about this, you can get into our class tomorrow. We teach people how to have effective climate conversations with other people, including people that they might be related to, they might know really well, but they can't talk about climate change with. In June, I went with a group of people to Minnesota, actually an area where my parents used to have a lake cabin. And we were protesting Line 3, Enbridge's Line 3, which was coming down from Canada across some of the most beautiful country in the world. They say that Minnesota has 10,000 lakes, but it actually has more than 10,000. And so we went there to protest. I got arrested late one night, and the policeman who took me to the car to get my information, I asked him, "What jail are you going to take me to?" And the reason it's important is because there aren't any big cities around there, and there were hundreds of people who got arrested. And he said, "Well, we're not going to take you to jail. We're going to cite you and release you. If you come back, we'll put you in jail." So he walked me off the property, and we had about 5 minutes to have a climate conversation. And I found out that he was a game warden, who are police too, and there were so many people being arrested, that which we took as a success story, that they didn't have any more places to put people. So we can learn to communicate about climate change. Catherine Hayhoe, who's a climate scientist at Texas Tech, she says, action begins with conversation. Most of the people in the country don't ever talk about it. Very rarely they talk about it. So one of the things we can do is we can learn to talk effectively about climate change. Ron Sadler, who was in a class a while back, said, "I've worked in the area of climate change for a long time. I never thought about conversation as being important. Now I know it's core to it all." So one of the things we can do is learn how to talk about it. And you could join, if you go through our class, you can join our climate conversation core and get this really cool button. So that's one of the things we could do. The second thing, and this is the one I think that people ask me to come and talk about, we can move our money. We all have the power to keep our bank from using our money to destroy the planet. And will people do that? In December, that's my wife, Sandra, who's here. And you probably don't notice him, but there's our dog, Buster. And Sandra's holding up a full-page ad that we took out in the San Jose Mercury News and a couple other papers. 99 people who had moved their money from these climate bad banks, Chase, Citibank, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, signed this ad. So one of the things I want to do at this point is give me a moment here. Okay. There we go. So this is our website, and this is what it looks like. You've seen this picture before. That's my granddaughter and me. If you go to the action site, there's a thing about effective climate conversations, and you can join, you can sign up to be part of these classes. And also under the action is move your money. So there's some stuff here about why this is important and why are we focusing on the banks as opposed to investments? Because the fossil fuel industry cannot do their damage without bank support. If we can cut the flow of money from our climate bad banks to these fossil fuel industries, we have a chance to make a difference here. So if you scroll down here, how can you move your money? Well, one thing is you can do it yourself. And we've got a lot of stuff down here. Like here's the overview of the process. Here's a checklist. What do you need from a bank or a credit union? Here are some banks and credit unions and ways to find credit unions, how you can track your money, et cetera. So one of the things you can do is you can do this on your own, as a bunch of people have already said they've done. Second is you can request a coach, and we will work with you individually to help you know what to do. I think Lisa was the one who said that it was really easy, much easier than she thought it was. A lot of people don't find it that way. They're intimidated by it. One of the hardest things to do is to find all of the direct pays and direct deposits, because you have to move those before you can change. But you can request a coach. The third thing you can do is organize a cohort. And Serbi, I wonder if you want to say something now about the cohort idea. The cohort is simply a group of people who together say, we want to move our money and we're going to work together over a period of time. And you want to tell people about your idea, which I think is a really cool one?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Since Jim said that it's better to help each other and kind of keep each other motivated, and it's like just need help if we need help with moving our money, and he organizes cohorts which get together and do sort of collectively as a group to move their money. And so this is one idea, that we can have a cohort just for the Green Cinema SOFA series participants, especially those who are here right now. And we can participate. We can have the resources that Jim provides. We can have his guidance, but we all come together as a group and just agree to help each other and go on this path.
And we could do that. What we would do if there were 3, 4, 5 or more of you who wanted to do this together, and it really helps to do it together because it's kind of a pain. It's not rocket science, but it's detailed. And so we would find the time that people could meet once a week for about an hour, and people would say, this is what I want to accomplish. We'd go through the steps. People could say, this is what I want to accomplish by next week. I was organizing protests against Wells Fargo branches. We were handing out flyers, and at one point my wife said to me, isn't it kind of hypocritical because we haven't moved our money from Wells Fargo yet? So okay, I better do that. And one Friday morning, it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to get onto the website for the company that does our payroll, so I could move my check from Wells Fargo to the credit union, self-help credit union. And I got on there and asked me 2 security questions. The first one was, where did you meet your spouse? And who is your favorite teacher? Well, I was very confident about that. I said I met my spouse in St. Paul, Minnesota, and my favorite teacher was Polly Ames. And it said, sorry, those are the wrong answers. Now, this is the point at which I would have said, I don't have time to do this. I'll come back later. And I would not have come back later. Do you know why I kept at it? It was 10 o'clock on a Friday morning, and at noon that day, we had a cohort meeting, and I had told people the last week that I was going to get this done before that. So I stuck with it and got it done. So there's a lot of, at first it's a lot of fun to share this with people, and just a lot of support for it. So if anybody, do you want people, if they're interested, to email you or put it in the chat, or how do you want to do that, Surbi?
Yeah, so if you want, you can put your email in the chat, and then I will make a list of people that we can be in a Google group or something, or you can email me. I'm just gonna post my email in the chat, and you can email me directly and let me know if you want to be in the cohort. So anybody who wants to join can just put their email in the chat or email me.
Or if you just want to learn more about it to start with. So let me wrap this up, because I want to give a little time for some questions. Now, if I can find my, okay. So the three crucial flows of money. The first one is our money to these climate bad banks. The second one is the bank's money to the fossil fuel industry. And the third is the fossil fuel industry to politicians. People often say, oh, it's a Republican versus Democrat issue, but it's not. There are lots and lots of corporate Democrats who take fossil fuel money and they pretend, they act like they care about the climate, but when the push comes to shove, they vote with their money interests. So can we interrupt those flows? Because I have to say, if we don't interrupt them, all the good ideas in the world aren't going to see the light of day. If you go to drawdown.org, drawdown.org has tons of great ideas for dealing with the climate crisis. None of them really are being implemented at scale because of the stranglehold the fossil fuel industry has over politicians. So if we don't interrupt these flows of money, this is how important it is. I think we're doomed. So I'll give you a chance in the questions to say that. Two more things I want to say. One is Bill McKibben, who I have immense respect for, one of the greatest people of our time. He's been talking about climate change and writing about it for 30 years. He said, I thought we were in an argument, but we were in a fight. The science has been clear for 20 years, and the fossil fuel industry knew that. We've won the argument, now we have to figure out how to win the fight. And he said, it's not that global warming is like a world war. It is a world war, and we are losing. We've got to come to the understanding that we're in a fight. This is not just an argument. It's not just, oh, can we get enough votes to, we're in a fight for not just our own lives, our kids' lives, our grandkids' lives, and really the whole planet. Let me just stop there for a minute. I have one other thing I want to cover. Well, no, let me give it. What can you do to position yourself to make a difference? Well, one is sign up for a newsletter. Get ready to move your money. And this particular, I don't know if you know about Third Act, this link will take you to our Move the Money Thief. This link will take you to Third Act. Third Act is an organization that Bill McKibben started about a year ago. And it's for people 60 years and older. And what they're asking people to do is not to move your money right now, but to take a pledge. If you have money in one of the climate bad 4 banks, sign a pledge that if they don't get their act cleaned up by the end of this year, then you will all move our money together. If you have already moved your money, then there's a pledge for you that you, in fact, let me just go to this. No, never mind. There's a pledge, if you've already done it, to say you've done it and you will not go back to that climate bad bank unless and until they fix it. Climate conversations, already talked about that. We have a quiz on climate change literacy. And Sarabi, what I'll do is when this is done, I'll send you this page so you can share these links with people. Okay, I said at the beginning, trying to figure out what our real work is absolutely crucial. And it's not easy in a time of climate change. When St. Francis of Assisi, shortly before he died, at a pretty young age, he said, "I am at peace because I have done what I have been given to do." If you were where I am right now and you turned your head a little bit, you'd see a little sign on my wall that says, "What is it that I have been given to do?" And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And that's one of the reasons I decided to start This Is What We Did, because I have some experience in starting organizations and really trying to help build a movement. Let me stop there and see if there are any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was very informative and just helps a lot of people like wrap their heads around what they can do with moving their money. And we really enjoyed your talk. Let me see if there are any questions for Jim. Yeah, please feel free to chime in with questions for Jim.
I don't know if you want to ask my wife to have a question, but go ahead, Sandra. You're muted.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about the Move Your Money and the idea of supporting Bill McKibben's new organization. You can actually have a cohort, move all your money, leave $1 in your bank, get your nonprofit, your community bank that is not supporting fossil fuels, and then when the year is up, you sign the pledge, you can move that last dollar. So it's you don't have to wait until. In fact, the point that you say I'm moving my money, no one's going to be able to move their money at that point, because oftentimes it can take a couple of months before your retirement can get transferred, et cetera. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, we're shifting our focus from helping people move their money right now. If you want to move your money, great, but we're really trying to support Third Act. Our mission is to help build a movement that's strong enough to break the power of the fossil fuel industry. But what we'll do is help you get ready. So for example, if you have a credit card with Chase, I had one for 30 years, take out a new credit card and we can help you find a new credit card. Stop using your Chase credit card, start using the other one, but don't rip it up. Don't end your Chase thing until it's time to all do it together. Any other thoughts or questions that people would have? Lisa.
So I've seen Bank of the West advertising a lot recently, saying that they're not investing in fossil fuels and all sorts of other stuff. What do you know about what do you know about them as a?
Yeah, we very much opposed to having people go to Bank of the West. Bank of the West is owned by BNP Paribas, which is a French bank, and is one of the top 10 worst climate banks. So Bank of the West isn't, but they're owned by BNP Paribas. If you help Bank of the West make money, that money is helping support BNP Paribas. So not a fan of Bank of the West. They're doing some talented advertising, but no. And Alan, you have your hand up. I think I know you, don't I, Alan?
Yeah, hi, Jim. I called you and we had a Zoom meeting a while back.
Yeah, we had a good talk.
Right. Anyway, I'm an investment advisor, and I've been doing this a long time. And anyway, so I put some resources in the chat. So there's a couple of organizations. One is called First Affirmative Financial Network, and they are a national organization that supports investment, advisors that do SRI, ESG investing, and then also US SIF, which is the US Social Investment Forum. They're more of a policy-driven organization. They're in Washington, D.C., and they try to change policy on a national level. And they're having a conference that I'm going to be attending, and there's going to be someone from the SEC. I think the SEC chairman's going to actually be a plenary speaker there, because there's a lot of focus now. Anyway, what I wanted to say though is there's a lot of confusion. ESG what's called ESG investing is becoming very popular, but there is a lot of greenwashing. I spoke with a colleague recently, and she said the same thing. She is in agreement in this, and she said that there's a lot going on. It's kind of becoming more mainstream, but really, what's changed? And not a lot has changed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
Alan, let me answer a few of the questions in the chat, and Russell, we'll get to you then. Sure. Yeah, Deb, man, the four big banks, the four biggest banks are the four biggest climate change destruction banks. So number one is Chase, number two is Citibank, number three is Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was number two, but now Rainforest Action Network survey, you mentioned their report, Banking on Climate Chaos, and then the fourth one is Bank of America. And if we can get one of those big banks to come around, then I think the others will go for it too. That's why we're putting our energy into banks. Let's see. Oh, on our website, let me see if I can dig it up quickly. Here we go. If you go to our website, the action piece, and here is a handout that we put together. So there we are, Bank of the West and Paribas. Here's, if you want to find a credit union, I'm a big fan of credit unions. You can look it up here. If you're looking for credit unions that really emphasize community development, like self-help credit union that we belong to, you can find them here. Climate-friendly banks, Amalgamated, Atmos, Beneficial State Bank. We're re-looking at aspiration because, well, we can go into that if you want, but green credit cards. So we can really help you. You got to make your own decision about which bank or credit union you want to go to, but we can really help you. Russell.
I think you're on mute, Russell.
Russell, you're muted, Russ. Any lip readers here? Okay, we'll come back to you, Russell, if you can get unmuted.
Okay,
there you go. There you go.
I think maybe he's having a problem with his sound system. If you,
yeah, we're not hearing you through your headset, Russell.
Can you take your headset off and just, will that help?
Can you hear me there now?
Yes, yes.
Right. I can't hear much, so I might have to put the headset back in later. I appreciate this is certainly very US focused, needs to be for where you guys are. I'm in Australia, and I'm just throwing it out there to see if there may be any other people in Australia in this Zoom chat, or if people have other Australian contacts. Because of when you're talking about getting a small group together of people that are going to move their money together, or like a cohort type network, just throwing it out there to see if there's any other contacts that maybe I could develop that sort of cohort group with, as to be more Australian focused. Our banks are probably quite a bit different here in Australia, but still just as much need and power as far as the local economy is concerned.
Yeah, so if you go to Rainforest Action Network, their URL is pretty convenient. It's ran.org, and then search for Banking on Climate Chaos. And you can scroll down and it lists the worst, from the worst to the not so worst banks, and you can see which ones might be Australian ones. Let me get a couple more things. Carol Weed, thank you for the thing about institutional divestment. Absolutely. A couple of years ago, the Stanford Cal football game is called the big game, but Harvard, Yale, they just say we're the game. And the Harvard Yale game a few years ago, at halftime, both students from both Yale and Harvard came out and sat in on the field. So they delayed the start of the second half of the game for an hour. And meanwhile, they showed a film of the starting quarterback for Harvard who was supporting this. You know, his game is being disrupted, but he was supporting it. And Harvard was like, you know, no, we can't do it. It's bad. And then boom, at a certain point, they did it. And that goes back to Rudy Dornbush's statement, The Economist. Things seem to take longer than they should, and then they happen faster than we think they could. So getting these big institutional folks to divest is a really important thing to do. And let's see. Yeah, and my business school classmate, Patty Ironson, is here and waving at you. And she just put in a chat to me that she's going to try to organize a group of Stanford Business School alums to move our money.
Okay.
Yes, Martha. Oh, can we go a little longer, Survey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We can
Martha.
take a couple more.
I noticed that the credit union I belong to, which is called Patelco, was not on your list of credit unions. Do they sometimes invest in fossil fuels?
No. As far as I know, no credit unions invest in it. And Patelco, we haven't updated that thing, but we do have some people who've gone to Patelco and they're very happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with Patelco. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Let me, if there aren't any, let me just see if I can end with one more slide here. Oops, did I miss it? Yeah, there it is. This cartoonist, Jim Moran, gave us permission to use this cartoon. And I think for any of us who have grandkids or young people in our lives, this is a chilling cartoon. What did you do in the war against global climate change, Granddaddy? And I think we all have to be able to answer that question for ourselves. What is it that we've been given to do to fight as hard as we can to protect the only planet we have? And again, I want to thank you all for inviting me to this. It's a really cool idea.
Thank you, Jim. We really enjoyed this chat. And as you can see, we went over time because we were having such a interesting chat and learning so much. One other point I'd like to just make is that there is a divestment bill that is in the California State Senate that's moving along called SB 1173, which tells the California pension plans and the teachers' pension plans to move away from fossil fuels. So hopefully, you find out more about that and can, tell your senators to vote yes for SB 1173. And then with that, we will end by just promoting our next month's film, which is The Game Changers. For May, we are highlighting a film called The Game Changers, which is about plant-based athletes and what the perception and reality of protein and performance is, and then how plant-based athletes are changing that, and a lot of celebrities and there are a lot of benefits for plant-based eating, and it's a very just a very visually nice movie to watch. It's called The Game Changers, and it's free on Netflix and YouTube. So hopefully you'll join us next month on May 18th from 7 to 8 p.m. as usual to discuss the movie. And we'll be sending out, all these resources by email to everyone. So thanks for joining us. Thank you so much and have a great night.